Dear beautiful souls, today I want to speak to you about the goal of practice. And the goal of practice is not to feel better. Please don't stole me from this. Bear with me for a minute. You see, feeling better is such a small form of motivation. Everything in the universe wants to feel better. When you feel it's too hot, you want to cool the body down. When you feel it's too cold, you want to warm the body up. When you feel the food is not tasty, you want to get tastier food. When you're not satisfied with your sex partner, you want to get better sex. So you want to feel better. And of course, animals do this too. But animals are in a different stage of development than a soul that is connected to a human frame. And a soul that is connected to a human frame can actually transcend biological instinct. Feeling better is conditional, contextual, and it is of the world. Do we feel pleasure right now, or do we feel pain and inconvenience? Interestingly, aren't those great saints and great masters that are admired in many religions those who took on very difficult tasks that were not about feeling better, but improving the human consciousness as a whole? So individually, they actually had to override their survival instinct and go past the fear of this particular form. So they had to stop identifying with it. And in order to do that, something must have driven them, must have inspired them to not only not avoid the pain, but to do what is the reasonable thing to do, no matter if it caused them pain or not. That is actually compassion. So the majority of human beings do spiritual practice to feel better. That means they are practicing from avoidance, and they're letting the little me in the mind decide what motivates them in life. And they decide pleasure motivates them or fear motivates them. Pleasure will always lead to fear, and fear will lead to an urge to seek out pleasure. So in the hamster wheel you are, and there you go. But to entirely step out, to sit in meditation or in prayer, no matter what your religion is, and to decide that this little me, this little thing that constantly chases things and tries to avoid things, as the Buddha said, craving and aversion. This little thing, once you have watched it long enough and you realize it's going nowhere. There is no meaning for it. There is no purpose for it. It is simply a limited framework that you find yourself caught up in. A psychological construct and biological construct that tells you, well, now I want orgasm, now I want food, now I want sleep, now I want this, now I want that. So it constantly wants and wants and wants. And if you listen to its wants, and I'm not saying don't eat, and I'm not saying don't sleep, but if you listen to its wants, and you constantly react to its wants, you're not the master of it, it becomes your master. When spiritual practice becomes deep and profound, we are reversing this. We are not chasing small states of feeling better. Because chasing small states of feeling better are ultimately selfish endeavors. The idea in Christianity of thy will be done is simply the intent of finding out what is universal law, what is divine will, and how can we let go of our little will and let the bigger will replace it and work through us, basically becoming a vessel for that intelligence. And often that means to do the very thing that scares you the most and intimidates you the most, and the thing that is the most uncomfortable. However, there's an arising of meaning, of purpose, of something that is greater and vaster than this little unit, yeah, of form, of intellect, of mind, of body. So the majority of people, they're flirting with spirituality. They're not really seeking God. They're going from retreat to retreat, from spiritual healer to spiritual healer, from teacher to teacher. And they jump methods all the time because they're still all about the experience. They're still all about the experience must make me whole. The experience must complete me. But the irony is that on the deepest level of what we are already complete. And it's simply the wanting that creates an illusion of not being complete. So this little mind that says, I want this, I want that, makes you feel a sense of lack. Now, if you believe it, and if you follow its impulses, you'll never be free. So often we must find out that this mind that has all these cravings and aversions will never be satisfied. We'll never reach a point where it completely lets go. We'll never reach a point where it enters a state of perfect peace. Because by its very nature, it cannot. So if it cannot do this, why are we submitting to it? Why are we giving in to the biological urges? Why are we following the pleasures? Obviously, ignorance, because the majority of people do not really understand how to get past that. Granted. And it is important to be compassionate about that. In the same way that, for example, if you raise a dog, there are certain things that your dog will not understand. Because he doesn't have the framework to understand it, and that is okay. If you raise a child and he puts his finger in the socket for the first time and gets zapped, well, now he's learning. Right? So as such, souls who are fused with a human construct and are experiencing this human construct as themselves and are identified with it because of their fear around this construct and believing that this is the totality of their reality, they will do everything to protect it and to please it. And therefore, they have to experience a great deal of fear. So this state of ignorance, of course, we are trying to overcome with Buddhism. However, those who go to retreats, those who go to Buddhist teachers, a lot of them believe they want to overcome it, but then they actually want attention from the teacher. They want a certain amount of energy from the teacher. Or they want to be respected in a certain way in the spiritual group, in the Sangha. So suddenly their worldly urges, their object-based wants and cravings suddenly move into spiritual cravings. Suddenly they want to be accomplished in certain yogic practices and they want titles with it. And they're still letting the little mind run the show. They're upset about who likes or dislikes them. They still get triggered by rejections. Because now they don't want the Ferrari anymore. They don't want the top model girlfriend. And maybe if they're female, they don't want that particular summer dress anymore. They can let that go. But then it moves into the idea of spiritual attainment, spiritual hierarchy. And all of this is still selfish. It is still submitting to this little mind that goes into resistance to the present moment, says present moment is not enough. There needs to be a future where I get the object of my desire that will complete me, which never comes, by the way, ever. It does not come. And wisdom is to recognize it. That moment of fulfillment will never come. When you understand that, then you have a chance at liberation. But only then. So, To have this little instinctual thing that drives us and trying to please it means we're trapped in a selfish box that is only about I, me. And it pretends to be kind, and it pretends to be compassionate, and it pretends to be nice, but it only pretends to be nice because it is a survival strategy, and it tries to steal energy, it tries to steal money, it tries to steal attention, it tries to steal comfort, and people are a slave to it. But they believe that they're spiritual practitioners. When comes the moment that a practitioner sits and watches this little I that wants this, that wants that doesn't want this, and says enough, your reign is over. Now the reign of the divine law begins. But to properly align with it, very difficult practices have to be done. And this is not attractive for the majority of people. So they have their stories. There's my truth, there's your truth, there's somebody else's truth, because they want everything to be relative. They want everything to be murky. And they don't want to, especially me teachers that really know the reality of what we are experiencing. Because in truth, what people who want to feel better want the most is doubt. Doubt, of course, is the opposite of faith. But no legit teacher will ask you ever for blind faith. But what they will ask you for is a willingness and a trust in the process and the methodology that will lead you to somewhere that we won't speak about directly. But it will lead you to somewhere. Very important. But if the methodology is known, if the way is clear, if you know which direction to go, there's no wiggle room for the ego, there's no escape. Because now suddenly it cannot say everything is relative. I have my truth, you have your truth. There are infinite ways to God. If the methodology is clear, you turn right here, you go left there, and then you walk straight. And this leads to this location. If somebody can explain to you the pathway to God like this, and you can feel it when they're real, but then something in you panics. It says, oh, that's not for me. I want to explore this. I want to have another 100 psychedelic substance retreats, medicines. I want ecstatic dance. I want certain form of physical yoga, not spiritual yoga, but more physical yoga. Then because you're not ready to kill your ego yet. You still believe it's you and you don't want to go after it. But when you really want to go after it, the methodology will arise, the right teachers will appear. And then, instead of being it a murky, blurry, unknown, the path becomes very straight. There are stages of initiations, and the stages of initiation are known to the teacher, and the methods are known to the teacher. And that is the great way, not the little way. Not the little way of, I want to feel better. I want sensations. I want stimulation. No, it is the way of saying, I end this little me, this selfish little me, that is full of fake compassion and fake niceties, but is actually a predator and takes advantage of many people and manipulates many people. I'm going to get rid of this so I can walk the great way, which is the way of surrender. And it's not only the way of surrender to God, it's the way of surrender to the method, to the teacher. And then surrender needs to translate into devotion and discipline. Yeah? And for those who struggle with devotion, because they might have some trauma about that, well, at some point there's really no choice in the matter, but one can ease into it. Just replace the word devotion with discipline. Discipline is necessary. Very much so. So when you put your little toes into many different ponds, but you do not commit to any of these ponds, not only do you not commit, but you switch all the time. Nothing effective can happen. People always ask me, what do you think of this Buddhist method? What do you think of this yogic method? What do you think of that religion? What do you think? Commit. Often practitioners come to me and they want me to be a partner in crime. They know the method that they need to apply. They know where they need to go. They can feel it beyond doubt. But then they invite the doubt in, because to be beyond doubt, that suddenly means commitment, that means hard practice, that means struggle, that means facing difficulty. So when they don't want to do this, they want me to be that partner in crime, and they come to me and they say, can you be the devil's advocate for me? Can you not tell me that maybe there's a better practice for me out there somewhere, or a better method, or a better teaching, or a better place, or a better this? Because they're still looking external and they don't want to do the work. And of course, because I care, I will tell them no. This is it. Here we are. Here we go. Contemplate about that, my friends. Be well.